Welcome to Conversa's Spanish micro lesson. This one is at a beginner level and deals with syllable stress. In other words, how do you know which syllable to stress when you're speaking Spanish? Take a look at the four words in red at the top. Those are English words. I would perhaps pronounce them present, subject, contract, invalid. But be careful because English also permits pronunciations like present, subject, contract, invalid. English is a little tricky. Spanish is a lot more straightforward, very predictable. And there are three rules which will help you to know exactly which syllable to stress every time. Take a look at rule number one in the blue box. The rule says if your form ends in NS or a vowel, stress the next to the last syllable. You're going to find that the way Spanish is put together, most words will in fact end in NS or a vowel and therefore stress the next to the last syllable. So when in doubt, stress the next to the last syllable and the percentages are riding with you. Take a look now at rule number two. Rule number two says that if your form ends in a consonant which is neither N nor S, stress the last syllable, not the next to the last, but the last. That would give you pronunciations like usted, reloj, papel. If I took those three words and pluralized them, I would get ustedes, relojes, papeles, taking me back to rule number one. So be careful. Your infinitive words will end in an R and therefore stress the last syllable. That will yield comer, desayunar, etc. And lastly, we have feliz, the word for happy. I didn't mention any words that ended in Y, but they're not very common, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Let's go on to the green box and rule number three, which says if you have a tilde or a slash mark over a vowel, forget rule number one, forget rule number two, and simply stress the syllable in which the tilde or slash mark occurs. Examples, fácil. If I didn't have that slash over the A, I would have to say fácil. But fácil is not español, fácil es francés. Same thing happens with the word for difficult. We say difícil. Es muy difícil. If I didn't have the slash over the second I would have difícil. And again, that sounds more like French than Spanish. If you have a multisyllabic word like teléfono, you're going to put a slash over the second E. Otherwise, you're going to get telefono. And you can call somebody to the phone until you're blue in the face and he's not going to understand what you're saying unless you put that tilde over the second E. Teléfono. Ah, okay. You just called somebody to the phone. Take a look at the last line. I have three words that are spelled the same but accentuated differently because of the positioning of the tilde. First word is the word for term, termino, a noun meaning term. Termino, a verb meaning I finish. Terminó, a verb meaning he finished, she finished, you finished. So you got to mind your P's and Q's. You got to be careful about which syllable you stress hard. It's going to make a big difference in Spanish. But again, remember that it's entirely predictable, and with a little practice, you're going to nail it every time. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you've enjoyed the lesson and that you found it useful.